Good afternoon, class. It's Professor Norwood, and I just wanted to just provide an update and give you a little bit of insight on our next the next assignment for this class. So far, we've done three summary response essays, and we're about to move into something that's considered a bit more challenging, but it doesn't have to be. It's still the same. We're still going to stay in the same analytic mindset, but we're going to step it up just a little bit. So if you have any questions about the content that I will be delivering today, I will be hosting a live Zoom meeting Thursday at 1 o'clock, and I'll be sure to send that invite out to everyone. So if you have questions about this assignment or any of the content that I'm about to cover, just either shoot them to me by email or just hold them over until we meet again on Thursday. All right, and just a few quick things about Inquisitive. Something happened on their end, and I basically had to reactivate my account. So a lot of the assignments that I had scheduled were taken off of the schedule. So I'm going to go ahead and re-add those. So if you missed any of the earlier Inquisitive assignments, I'll go ahead and make them active again for you all. All right. So this week, right, we're working on a rhetorical analysis essay. And before I go over what that is, let me just go over the prompt. And right now, I'm in the week 4 rhetorical analysis module. All right, so this material will be available for you all at 1 o'clock today. So if you're on D2L and you're unable to see it, it's just this module won't become active until the start of class today. All right, so here's the prompt. Let me just click on it. All right. And right now, mine's in teacher view. I did not switch over to student view, so it'll look slightly different on your end, but the content is still the same here. All right, so let me download mine into a Word document, please. All right. Rhetorical analysis, right? The analysis of rhetoric. And I know that sounds kind of generic, but it actually is the analysis of rhetoric. And rhetoric are just, rhetoric is just strategies that a speaker or an author uses to reach an audience. All right, so here's the prompt. Rhetorical analysis involves exploring an argument's rhetorical strategies in order to gauge the effectiveness of the argument. It's not an assessment of whether you agree or disagree with the argument itself. Instead, rhetorical analysis requires you to examine the types of appeals, ethos, pathos, logos. We will cover those, so don't worry about that if that sounds a bit alien right now. Ethos, pathos, and logos, and how different parts of an argument come together to achieve a purpose. In short, it is a close look at how an author communicates their argument, as opposed to focusing on the argument itself. And don't be misled by that statement. Of course, you're going to think about this argument that a speaker is making, but rhetorical analysis involves more of an analysis of the delivery of the argument, because sometimes the way we deliver an argument or the strategies we use can really really affect the outcome of an argument, or better yet, can affect our audience's receptiveness to our argument. All right, so now this is your job, right? For your rhetorical analysis, you are to choose a song or speech. And I provided a link to I just 100 famous speeches, and then there's another one that's has a more international bent. So you can either choose one of them, or maybe there is some meaningful speech. I would just say, if you choose a speech, make sure it's one with some substance, a song as well. Make sure it's one with the substance. If you are choosing a song for this project, be careful not to choose just your favorite song in the moment. Try to choose a song that conveys a message. And I think, like, right now, and really given history, there's a lot of, songs that, really just put forth a social message, or, maybe the message is self-love, and things of that nature. All right. But I think whatever you settle on, the first thing you should ask yourself is, okay, what is this piece of text, whether it's a song or a speech, what is this piece of text saying? What is the author's overall message they're trying to communicate? All right. To make your analysis more engaging, try choosing a song or a speech that conveys a message, some kind of social commentary, if you will. You may need to conduct some basic research on the artist or the speaker and the issues addressed in the song or speech you choose to contextualize your analysis. So once you decided what you want to do, then one of the first steps you should take, look into the artist or the speaker's background. All right. And I'll explain why, that's going to be critical. If you are analyzing a song, it can be from any genre. Explicit content is fine. We're all adults. All right. However, be sure to use good judgment when deciding what lyrics or parts of your speech to quote. The same thing would apply. Your the speech you choose. It doesn't have to be rated PG again, but just be mindful of what you quote in your essay. All right. During the pre-writing stage, think about the points you wish to make in your analysis. Though the song you choose or speech you choose is completely up to you, it would be in your best interest to choose a song or speech that makes a clear argument. Again, what's this song saying? Right? What's this speech saying? And you may have to really put some thought into, just that aspect of this assignment. What is this person saying? All right. Especially I think if it's a song, because sometimes artists will use, certain poetic license or artistic license, and the message, may be buried, underneath this wordplay, right? Or it may be buried in metaphor or buried in analogy. All right. So, and each of those is a rhetorical strategy as well. So when you're looking at the source of what you're analyzing, really think about, what's this person saying, right? What's this author saying? What is this speech? What is this speech? What's the idea that this speech wants me to accept? All right. So once you have chosen your song or your speaker, start analyze or your speech, start analyzing its components. Who's the artist, right? Who's the speaker? What have they produced in the past? Meaning, say you're choosing a song or a speech, that does have some social commentary, right? Where does this song fit in this artist catalog? Or same thing with speeches. Where does this speech, fit in with what this person has done before? Is it a departure from what they've done before, or is this kind of in line with the kind of music or the kind of speeches that they usually produce? And this kind of goes into like ethos is ethics, right? Or it's really you asking the reader or asking the writer, why should I believe you? Right? Why should I believe you? Or more importantly, like, what's your authority to speak on this? Right. So if the person has a history of, making these social commentary oriented speeches, then you can sort of discuss that in your essay. All right. Or, if it's a departure from what they normally do, you can include that as well. All right. Then you also want to look at the context, meaning like you do want to think a little bit about the moment that your song or speech comes out of, meaning what's it a response to? What's happening? What's going on? And so your analysis will involve you doing some contextual analysis, meaning, again, as I was saying, looking at what's happening, what's going on in the world. All right. What's going on that produced, this song or this speech? What's it a response to? So examine the historical, political, social, or cultural situation that the song or speech responds to, or that inspired the song or speech. What was going on at the time the piece was created? Okay. Then look into the words. What's the speaker, singer, rapper, or just artist, saying? What appeals are being used, right? Where is, the author using an emotional appeal? Where are they appealing to our logic, right? So think about those. Who's the audience being targeted? Okay. And then think about, whether the argument is convincing. And it's not necessarily agree or disagree, but when you think about this speech or the audience that this specific song was directed to, was it convincing? Right? Was it persuasive enough? And again, it's not about whether you agree or disagree. You can find something to be persuasive or effectively persuasive, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with it. All right. So organize your thoughts and your writing around a specific, well-worded thesis. The thesis is the most important sentence of your essay. So consider it carefully. The thesis can offer an overall evaluation of the song or speech's effectiveness, or an encapsulation of its general rhetorical strategy. For example, Lennon shows his argument through the use of several different examples throughout the song, as well as many other aspects of the song. With all these put together, Imagine is a cleverly presented argument by Lennon that world peace is a necessity. Okay, so I know in the past we've been taught that our thesis statement is one sentence, and it generally is, but nothing wrong with having a two-sentence thesis statement. And I think I may have said this before. Sometimes we can break the rules a little bit, but if you do want to go traditional, then streamline it into one statement. As this kind of clunky statement can be streamlined into one cohesive sentence. All right. So this assignment will also require to do some basic research. Underline basic. We're gonna wrap up with a full-on research paper, and we're gonna have a time to exercise those muscles when we get to it. So, but you will have to do some basic research for this assignment. Look into the author's background and the historical period that the speech or song was born from. All right. You will not need to cite basic biographical information. I don't mind Wikipediaing, if that's even a word, if you just want to get some biographical information about the artist. I would just say like basic things like, this artist was born in, South Bend, Indiana. That was kind of random, but you don't have to cite that kind of material. But you will need to cite at least two credible sources, though more could enrich your essay. Your citation may be a news article related to the issue in your song or speech, quotes from a review of that artist's work, or, something about the speaker, an interview with the artist or speaker, or a source describing the artist or speaker's influence for that body of work. If the song or speech is particularly controversial or has been censored, and those work really well for this assignment, but look for a source explaining the controversy surrounding the work. Again, feel free to use more than one source, but for this essay, yours should be the dominant voice. So, if there's some controversy, and I know, if you look in the just like the 60s, 70s, where a lot of there are, even now, a lot of movements are happening, movements for human rights, we'll say, because I think when you look at most movements, in most cases, that's what's the essence of the movement. Recognize my humanity. Whether that's based on your race, your ethnic background, your sexual identity. Most movements say, just respect my humanity. All right. So if you're choosing something that was controversial, look into the controversy. Right. That may be something you write about. Okay. And here's the mechanics of this thing. 4 to 6 pages. Try to cap it at 6. Don't go beyond 6 for this project. All right. The first rough draft is due Thursday, October 22nd. So Thursday of next week. And I will have them returned to you that following Tuesday. And then you will get the final draft uploaded by Tuesday, November the 3rd, which is election day, right? So go out there and do your civic duty as well. All right. Or, vote by mail. All right. Whatever you do, just do something. Okay. So here's, just a quick breakdown of ethos, pathos, and logos. And I will go through those individually in a minute here when I look at, some of the course material. But ethos, it just answers the question, what qualifies the author to speak on the subject at hand? Okay. What's their credibility? All right. What makes them a credible source to speak, on this, whatever they're speaking about. Okay. And then pathos is appeal to emotion. Okay. Appealing to emotion can be a great rhetorical strategy when used when used with a certain level of balance. All right. Because if you try to pull your audience's heartstrings too much, they're gonna recognize that and then they're gonna say, hey, well, that's great, that you're pulling my heartstrings or you're affecting my emotions, but where's the evidence? All right. So think about that as you're, putting your rhetorical analysis together. Does the speaker, we'll look at it like this: does the speaker effectively use an emotional appeal? All right, or do they pour it on too much? All right, and sometimes are they using emotional appeal when an appeal to logic is necessary? And that's our appeal to logos is an appeal to logic. All right. Logos, it answers the question like, okay, where's the evidence? Right? Where's the reasoning? All right. So it's just how it sounds. It's just how it sounds. It appeals to our sense of logic, right? Show me the hard evidence. Okay. Show me how this is true. And that's why I say like pathos and logos kind of have to work together, because if you rely too much on emotional appeal, you're going to lose the critical thinkers in your audience. However, if you rely too much on appeals to logos, then the writing or the argument itself may come off a bit dry. So the best arguments tend to have a synthesis of pathos and logos and ethos as well, because an argument can quickly fall apart if our credibility is damaged. All right, so that's the prompt for the rhetorical analysis essay, and again, that can be found in the week 4 rhetorical analysis module. All right, and I just want to cover some strategies. Oh, excuse me. Before I move forward, this is just some, or this handout is just some, or excuse me, just a quick rundown about MLA and citation and things of that nature. So if you need a quick review, just take yourself through that. And these two links, this one's a PDF, and these two links are our websites. And this is 100 greatest speeches of the 21st century, and or excuse me, 20th century. Has everyone from JFK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Franklin, Roosevelt, FDR. So pretty much, most of the famous, speeches, from U.S. history. And this one, it's similar, but this one has more of an international bent. All right. So you can choose, or maybe there's a speech that you like and you want to use that one. Steve Jobs, made this a famous speech a while ago before he passed. A lot of people have, done this assignment using that speech. But really, I leave that in your hands. I would again just say make sure whatever you're using has some substance. Like you don't want to choose a speech, that's just a couple paragraphs long, because you aren't going to get that much of an analysis from that. All right. So that's the assignment. Again, the first draft is due Thursday of next week. And as I stated before, Thursday of this week, which is the 15th, I would just have, a live Zoom meeting if you want to just go over, some of this material in person, or as close to in person as we can get these days. All right. So here's just the PDF. And it's a quick rundown of rhetorical analysis. And you can look at that. And I really just want to view these slides. I'm just going to download, but again, you can just open them. But I like to download because sometimes D2L just, does its own thing, takes forever, preparing. Okay. So I'm just going to look at these slides. All right. And the slides are, the slides use a song, as their source. All right. But the same strategies that you see here can certainly be applied to a speech. um, because when we, you know, it, I use the word text fairly loosely, and for me that just involves written word, right? Song lyrics, speeches, things we read, academic journals. So I just have kind of a broad definition of the word text. All right, so rhetorical analysis, and this is a great quote from Plato, the famous or infamous philosopher, depending on who you ask. All right, so rhetoric is the art of ruling the minds of men. Okay, and then we'll make it gender neutral. Rhetoric is the art of ruling the minds of people. So really, it's rhetoric is just using your words to get people to accept ideas. All right, and maybe inspire them to some action. All right, so what is rhetorical analysis? Rhetorical analysis involves applying your critical reading skills to analyze or break down a text to see how all the parts come together to achieve a purpose. And, the purpose could be to inform, persuade, or entertain. All right. But again, when you really look at it, most writing is, persuasive, even if it's not, outwardly said. All right. Most writing tries to get us to accept something. All right. So rhetorical analysis is not about summarizing. So for your project, or excuse me, for your essay, your job is not to say, hey, here's what this person is saying, and just kind of translating into your own words. That's not what a rhetorical analysis is about. And hopefully, with our first three summary response essays, we got um, some good practice in on like differentiating summary from response. All right. So don't fall into the summary trap for this essay. Okay. And rhetorical analysis is also not about agreeing or disagreeing with an author. In the past, I've seen students analyze some speeches that they vehemently disagree with, but the one thing that, you know, stood out to them about the speech was it was well argued, and the speaker hit all the points to persuade their target audience. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you agree or disagree with. All right, so think about that. But rhetorical analysis is about explaining how the parts of a whole come together. So it's really looking at those rhetorical strategies, looking at this speaker's credibility, looking at their appeal to emotion, and looking at the evidence they use, or their appeal to logic. All right, and the types of rhetorical analysis, there's usually textual analysis and contextual analysis. Okay, so there's no correct formula for rhetorical analysis, but most fall somewhere between textual and contextual. So a textual analysis is an analysis of the words themselves. Okay. Analysis of the rhetorical features of a text, examining the words on paper. So we're told this is the golden age, but gold is the reason for the wars we wage. All right. And, just some words from a U2 song. All right. One of my favorites. Okay. New Year's Day. All right. So now, all right, if I have this very short quote, I would just provide, some, excuse me, I would just provide somewhere, some analysis of, what this line actually means, what, Bono is communicating with this line, or, a contextual analysis, think about the cultural environment that existed when a particular piece was written or performed. So if I were to analyze, this song, I would look at the political and cultural climate in 1983, when this song was written. Okay. Most rhetorical analyses contain elements of both. So when you're putting your analysis together, one, of course, you want to look at, the words and the rhetorical strategy, but you also want to do some analysis of, what was happening, right? Again, as I was saying, as I was going over the prompt, think about, that historical moment. Try to look into what was going on. And again, it goes back to that question. right? What's this song or what's this speech a response to? All right. And then I'm not gonna sing it and do the song that injustice if you were waiting for me to sing it. All right. All right. So now Euripides, ethos, pathos, and logos. All right. And these are words that can sometimes be intimidating because they're in Latin. All right, but they don't have to be. All right, they don't have to be. And again, just means like credibility, which is ethos, emotional appeal, pathos, and then logic, which is logos. All right. So ethos speaks to a speaker's credibility. What gives them the authority to speak on this subject? Why should I believe them? Okay. So if we're looking, just to use a quick example, if we're looking at, Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, right? So if we ask ourselves the question, you know, what gives Dr. King the authority to speak, on such topics? That question is answered simply by looking at, his history of, speaking on civil rights, his history of action, in, the field of civil rights. So, whatever you're working on, look at the speaker and, what's their credibility? It's the same with artists, you know, it's the same with songs, right? Think about, what this speaker's history is. Does this artist or this band or this group, do they have a history of political works, making social political content, right? Or, it doesn't necessarily have to be some social political content. Maybe you have an artist that, their drive is just empowerment. A couple semesters ago, I remember a student, I can't remember the song right now, but a student wrote a great essay about it was a Beyonce song. It's just slipping my mind right now. But the song was a great argument for female empowerment, right? And the writer or my student, did a great job of capturing that, all right, in their essay. And one of the things they made mention of is Beyonce's history of releasing material that has that same type of content. All right. So again, when you think ethos, look into the background, look into the track record of your artist or your speaker. All right. So and then you want to include some of that material in your essay. All right. What songs have they made in the past, right? Or even, if they have, a history of being active, in their communities. A lot of artists, they may have, they may be an artist, but they may have a foundation, or something of that nature, or they may have a cause, that they're really invested in. So, really do some research to look into those things. All right. And then pathos, right? How well does this artist use appeal to emotion, right? Um, One of the examples I recall from a few years ago was, when Barack Obama was giving this speech about gun violence, and just some of the terminology that was used in this speech was just a really effective way of, you know, addressing the audience's emotions, or not necessarily addressing, but really, touching the audience's emotions. And I think it worked, in that context because that wasn't all that the speech entailed. There was some data, as well. So think about how well your audience, your speaker wields that, right? Is it too much? Is it just the right amount? Is it not enough? Or is it, like I said, is it perfectly balanced? All right. But try to highlight those moments in the speech or in the in the song, that convey that. emotional appeal. And then finally, appeals to logic are, again, just the evidence. Now, if you're analyzing a song, appeal to logic can be kind of tricky. But sometimes artists do, point to, things that are really happening, in their communities. And, sometimes, this may be done like in a hypothetical context, meaning like this is happening, I haven't necessarily witnessed it or experienced it, but, this is what goes on in my community, or this is what goes on around me. All right. So, think of the evidence, right? And the evidence, for your piece may be just experiential evidence, right? So, think about that. And here's, how some of that, would look in an essay or I guess in a speech. All right, ethos again. Trust me, I'm a doctor, right? When we say trust me, I'm a doctor. Doctor, invokes a certain just a certain level of credibility, meaning like trust my medical advice. I'm a doctor. All right. So again, why should I trust the speaker, right? Why should I trust this artist? Okay. And then logos, more than 100 peer-reviewed studies have been conducted over the last decade, and there is still no link to. So again, more than 100 peer-reviewed studies. All right. Factual. Factual. Okay. And finally, pathos, and I just stole this from a commercial. There's no price that can be placed on peace of mind. Our advanced security system will help you sleep well at night. Okay. Conveys the feeling of safety, feeling, right? So again, think about the feelings that are conveyed in your speech or song. Think about the evidence, that the artist presents, and then think about their credibility. Why should I trust them when they speak about this? Okay. Now, all right. This is the stage that you all are in right now, planning. Okay. And, maybe hopefully in count one, right? Your teacher took you through the writing process. Okay. And the first stage of the writing process is planning or brainstorming, getting your ideas together. Okay. Listen to your speech a few times. Listen to your song as a few times. And I think it's in our best interest to kind of shift our mindset when we listen or when we read, a speech. Go from being a fan or a spectator to being, someone who is going to be analyzing the effectiveness of, what you're, the material that you're going to be analyzing. All right. So think about asking yourself or trying to hash out this material before you actually start um, pinning your essay or typing your essay, typing your draft. All right. So think about the context, what occasion gave rise to the need for persuasion, or what dilemma does this piece respond to? All right. And the piece that I am discussing is the piece is called Keisha's Song, and it's a song by an artist, Kendrick Lamar, who is an artist, I'm particularly fond of. And Keisha's Song is actually one of his older songs. But he has a pretty nice catalog of music. All right. But again, choose something that you're into, or that speaks to you for whatever reason. And this song is off the Section 80 mixtape. Okay. Old stuff. Or old, I guess old by today's standards. All right. So and this answers the question, what dilemma does this piece respond to? Many women exist on the fringes of society, and their plight is often ignored because of their gender and social standing. Okay. And the song itself is about, just a young woman who got, just caught up in, some things that were, not really healthy behaviors. All right. And the song kind of tells the story of how, this happened. All right. Um, think about, who's the author and how does he or she or them, establish their credibility. All right. Kendrick Lamar was born and raised in Compton, California, which gave him a front row seat to many of the social ills he addresses in his music. And something like this, actually, both of these can go in your essay when you're discussing background. All right. So again, right, what's the dilemma that the piece responds to? And then, how does this artist or speaker establish their credibility? Okay. And, this artist's credibility just comes from, existing in an environment where, the themes in his music, happen a lot. All right. And then, think about the purpose. Keisha's song informs as it serves as a cautionary tale, persuading the audience to avoid the trappings Keisha falls into. Okay. Now, when you look at purpose, right, a statement like this could be your thesis statement. All right. So, when you ask yourself, okay, what's this author saying? All right. The answer to that question could very well be your thesis statement in your own rhetorical analysis. Keisha's song informs as it serves as a cautionary tale, persuading the audience to avoid the trappings Keisha falls into. Okay. Informs, persuades. All right. And if we want to take it further, we can say Keisha's song effectively informs, as it persuades. All right. And then look at the audience, right? This is something that you can put in your essay, or you can just use this in your brainstorming process. Kendrick Lamar usually targets youth, but his fan base is broad. Many of his fans are attracted to his music because of shared experiences. Okay. And then, think about the main idea, right? What reasons, what appeals are used. All right. The argument here is to dissuade, listeners from turning out, like Keisha, or it's also, just saying, here's a problem that, maybe we, as a society or a community need to address. All right. And then this is just some things that can go in your essay. Of course, you can expound on these bullet points in your essay, or expound on the ideas you come up with when you brainstorm, when you're writing your essay. But as you're brainstorming, try to jot down ideas, to get yourself started. Um, Keisha's song makes a logical appeal, which is with its intricate wordplay. Also, the vivid images of the young woman in the song affect the listener's emotions. So, and then I think if we were to take this essay further, we could even bring in, some statistical data, right, to show, right, what happens, to, some people in this environment. So, think about that. So if you're discussing a song, the artist may make reference, to a particular thing, but you may have to do the legwork, or you may have to do the research to go and verify some of these claims, or you may have to bring in the statistical data. The same goes for speeches as well. So when you're brainstorming, you know, look at look at the context. What was happening? Who's the author? How did they establish their credibility? What's the purpose? What do they want me to accept, with this speech, or with this piece of music? Who's being targeted, right? Is it young people, elderly people, older people, as I say, more seasoned. I just say that because I'm getting older. All right. Is it, conservatives? Is it liberals? Is it centrists? Is it whoever, or is it just, a general audience, right? Audience of thinkers. So think about that. Really try to do some analysis of the targeted audience. Okay. And some speeches will say the target audience, or some will just, it'll be implied. All right. And then, think about, right? Does the author's message succeed in fulfilling their intentions? Okay. Now you're putting your draft together. Okay. You did your brainstorm, right? You put some forethought into your essay. You put some planning together. All right. Now it's time for you to sit down and start cranking out that draft. Okay. And here's another thing about the writing process that I'm hoping that you picked up in 1510, but if you didn't, here it is now. When you're writing a draft, especially a first draft, focus on getting your ideas out. Okay, it's not going to sound perfect. May not even be coming together the way you want it to come together, but in your first draft, it is critical that you get your ideas out. Okay, just get them out on paper. Try to organize as best you can, of course. try, breaking your material down into paragraphs. And if you want, you can still use that 5 paragraph model that all of us probably learned a million years ago, where there's intro, 3 body paragraphs, conclusion. The only difference with college writing is you have to have more body paragraphs. All right, so the model will be the same, like intro, body, conclusion. The only difference is, right, you'll have a lot more body paragraphs. Okay. But yeah, don't put the pressure on yourself to come up with a perfect draft your first go round. Okay, there's going to be some bumps and bruises, especially if you've never written a rhetorical analysis before. So I'm not expecting your drafts to be perfect. So don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. All right, and here are some strategies of putting your, or excuse me, for putting your draft together. So in your intro, briefly describe the argument you are analyzing, including the author, and where and when it was published, right? Provide some background information, if you sense that it will either add to the completeness of your analysis, or if your topic is unfamiliar to your audience. So in your intro, maybe a little bit of the artist's background, okay? You could even, describe some, you can go into it, you can describe some context, meaning in 1983, here's what happened, right? Or here's what was going on, right? So you can take that route if you wish, in your first in your introduction paragraph. All right. In the body, that's when you want to get into your analysis. Okay. Look at what the artist or the speaker is saying, right? Look at the appeals, that they're using. Okay. You can quote lyrics in here. You can quote parts of your speech in here. In fact, I think it's in your best interest, to quote. Okay. This artist, touches their audience's emotions when they say, and then go into your quote. And then after the quote, follow it up with your explanation of how, that's an appeal to emotion, and whether you think it's an effective appeal to emotion. All right. So look at the content. Perhaps you can go into a bit more depth about the author's motivation. Again, why this speech or why this song at this time? All right. Yeah, I think especially if it's an artist or a speaker that's not really known for making the argument that you're going to be discussing. Like if you have an artist that's not really known for their social content, but they release a song that has some social content, that's a good thing to discuss. Why this change in direction? Okay. And it's sometimes it's a disingenuous change in direction, meaning like they're just doing it for more publicity, or they want to be a part of a wave. But other times, there's other reasons. Maybe they couldn't release social material because in the past, because of contractual obligations, and things of that nature. Or maybe they just got inspired by something that happened. So think about that as you're putting your analysis together. Of course, discuss, ethos, pathos, logos, in that section of your essay. All right. Again, just from an organizational or a mechanical standpoint, make sure your body paragraphs begin with topic sentences. So we're still, um, I don't want to spend too much time on paragraphing strategies in Comp 2, but the PIE method for paragraphing still applies. And PIE is just PIE, point, information, explanation. All right. The point is your topic sentence. Information could be a quote, could be a reference to some kind of source material. That shows the validity of your topic sentence. And then your explanation is your follow-up to that quote or to that reference. Never begin or end a body paragraph of an essay with a quote. Okay. Always start with your own words and conclude with your own words. Okay. And then hit that wrap it up button after you've completed your analysis. Don't end by agreeing or disagreeing with the piece, but you can reiterate, your thoughts on the effectiveness of the piece. Okay. So again, take agree, disagree out of it. out of this project. All right. Take good, bad, out of this project. And then, look at the effectiveness of the argument. Okay. Reiterate why your audience should care about your piece. Okay. Or, like I was saying, you can discuss the effectiveness, of the piece. You can reiterate that idea. Okay. And I will search my old archives to see if I have any examples of these that have been completed already. But I'm always cautious about doing that when students are writing first drafts because I want this piece to be your own, and don't worry about am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? There's going to be time to revise. I will look at your draft, and if you wish, I will go over your draft with you. So don't pressure yourself to make this thing. All right. No, and again, no piece of writing is perfect, whether it's a first or a final draft. So, don't put yourself under that kind of pressure. Just do your best. Right. And again, I think with, you know, most of the assignments we do in this class, they just work better if you have something invested, in what we're doing. So don't don't just go to these speeches that I've provided the website for and just choose one at random or one that you think you'll be able to get the most content from. Try to find something that you're into. Same thing goes for a song. Try to find something that you're into. All right, for this. Okay. And again, this is just a PDF and it's pretty much the same thing I just covered in these slides. Okay, it's just more of a streamlined version. All right, so I will, search my old files for examples because I like to use student examples when I actually do use examples. But they're all over the web. If you want to just search around for rhetorical analyses. All right. So again, Thursday of this week, which is the 15th, we'll have a Zoom meeting and really, you can just ask questions about this assignment and I'll be happy to field them. All right. So just going to end, this recording and, get this uploaded to our D2L in the week for all. All right. Take care, my good people.